This is BIPSI, brought to you by the Division of Communication and Performing Arts.
Bossier Parish Community College. Thanks for tuning in to This is BIPSI. I'm your host, Sarah Patterson, and today I have a very special guest with us. This is one of my favorite people, Mr. Paul Belcher. Say hi, Paul.
Hello.
He's here to talk to us about the theater program here at BIPSI, but first I want to ask you a few questions so they can get to know you a little better.
Okay.
Tell me, how did you get into the theater business?
Well, eons ago, I guess this was back when I was elementary school, kind of helped with a little play, and that's kind of usually it starts with everybody. Was in it and helped backstage, and never really thought about it as a career path. And then started college and was one of those undecided majors, kind of bounced around a bit, and when it came time to choose an elective, chose to take a lighting class, and this is when I was at Centenary, and that's when I kind of found my home and changed to a theater major, and that's what my degree's in. So it's one of those things that started a long time ago, and eventually it was still a long time ago, but that's what I got my degree in.
So you went and got a degree in theater. Mm-hmm. Now, what were some of the other degrees maybe you bounced around from before you got to theater?
Well, ironically, one of the first things, like when I applied, I was like, well, maybe business or accounting. And actually I started doing accounting. And, while I was there, undecided, tried engineering and a couple of different things. And I was doing the more technical side rather than the acting side, which involves more of the numbers and making sure things are strong and sturdy and whatnot. So what's funny is now I'm involved in theater, but I deal with the budgets for the division.
Get a little bit of both.
I get a both, so that accounting still came to
help you later on.
Yeah, even though I didn't get a degree in it. So my instincts weren't not bad, it's one of those things, it's interesting how things evolved.
I specifically asked you that one question, just so people know that it's okay to switch your majors because those classes later on might help you.
It's one of those things, do you know what you're going to do for the rest of your life?
Not many people do.
The times have changed. It used to be like, way back when, the mindset you have of the 50s and 60s, you start working for a company and you stay there until you die. And it's a thing now. You can change, you can evolve, you can try new things. On the other hand, it doesn't look on the resume to bounce from job to job to job every 6 months. But it's one of those things, when you go to a place, you bring a certain skill set, and there's a lot of overlap in the workforce, and they're going to need different people who have different backgrounds. So it's not a bad thing to be diverse, and given the opportunity to try things. And yes, sometimes things don't work out, but try it.
With like workforce and jobs in mind, like what all have you done before you got here to BIPSI? Like what theater, what kind of things have you done with that?
Like when I graduated with my degree in theater, I took my last final on a Wednesday morning, and Thursday morning at 7 a.m. I was driving to San Diego because I already had a job.
Nice.
So I went to San Diego, was there for 2 years at the La Jolla Playhouse. It's a regional theater, which if you don't know what that means, it's kind of a big deal. This is where you prepare things to go to Broadway.
Oh, wow.
So while I was there, the first year, we did a revival of How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. It was performed in La Jolla. We built everything, well, built most of it, assembled everything, performed it for 6 weeks there, went to Washington, D.C. for 6 weeks there, and then performed on Broadway for 3 years. So while I didn't make it to Broadway, my scenery has.
That's impressive, though.
It's fun. It was a great theater, and we did, it's also located with the University of California, San Diego campus, so they do the educational side as well. So I was working with up-and-coming designers and directors and stage managers. And then the next season we did, what was it? It was a new film, or not a new film, a new play that they were trying to develop called Faust. And Randy Newman who's done a lot of music for films and whatnot. He did Toy Story and things
Oh,
like
wow.
that. They've been trying to make this musical and it didn't happen, but the guy who was directing it, who was the artistic director, was Michael Greif, who did this show called Rent, which you may have heard of.
Yeah, I have heard of Rent.
And it's one of those things, like with a lot of the entertainment industry, it's kind of a nucleus, there's a set group of people.
Everybody knows everybody.
And like one of the minor characters in Faust was Daphne Rubin Vega, and about 6 months later, when Rent took off, she's on the cover of Newsweek magazine, for her role.
Bam.
So it's like, it's interesting, and there's a correlation. I've also worked in the film world, and that is
I've
there
heard
as
you've
well.
worked on some films in the local area here
Correct.
too.
Along with those many trying different things after theater, I've worked in banking industry. Then I was like, no, that's not really for me. I've worked on some movie of the weeks, some feature films, some big, some small, some in between. Also worked as a studio manager at Mansfield Studios, and I was the operations manager at Worldwide Effects, where we did the graphics and CGI for feature films.
Now, what was that feature film you told me earlier you worked on?
That was one, Olympus Has Fallen. That
Yeah.
was where we built the giant mock-up of the White House just north of the CenturyLink Center.
That's really cool.
So, yeah, we did I think we ended up using about 6 different CGI companies to do all there were about 1,500 shots in that film.
For one movie?
One movie. And we did the most. We did about 600 of them. Not all of them were super heavy lifting, but one of our guys, he's actually now working for Weta Studios in Australia, or at least he was. I don't know if he still is or not. The sequence with the giant gun thing that comes up on top of the White House and shoots down all the helicopters, he invented that in his mind.
In his head, like
Yeah,
that was just one
that was
single
something-
person's idea?
He created it, he modeled it, made it, and that made it into the feature film. Some of the other things that we did, we did blood enhancements, like when the stunt people, they have bullet impacts, the blood goes off.
So that's special effects? That's not
That's
like...
special effects when you actually have the physical blood, but it's called blood enhancement. We make it bloodier and splatterier and go where it make it look better. And because sometimes it comes out great with what the camera shoots. Sometimes we can make it a little bit better, but not be blatant. And a lot of ours, we try to be a little bit.
It's like Photoshop without being noticeable.
That's basically it. We used a program called Nuke, and we had about when we were really busy, when we were working on Olympus Has Fallen, we had about 60 employees.
So, okay, all that up until now, I'm going to get on the BIPSI part because I have a question to ask you
Sure.
about that later on, special effects in the theater world.
Okay.
So how long have you been here at BIPSI working with us?
I started in June of 2014, so we're almost at 3 years.
Nice. Do you like it? Do you like it
I love
here?
it. I love it. I like working with the students. I like there's a good energy with the people. They're trying to learn, trying new things.
Right.
And it's at times it's challenging, which is rewarding to itself if everything
When
is
you
easy.
overcome the challenge, I'm sure.
Exactly. There's some days it feels like you're hitting your head against the brick wall just because you like hearing the squishy sounds. But there's some days that it's really rewarding, and it's nice when you see your students graduate. You get a sense of accomplishment, and hopefully you've done a good job preparing them for their next step, whatever it will be, if it's the workforce or going on to school or doing whatever.
That's really awesome, especially because you look at it like that. Like whenever your students graduate and they go into the workforce, they're your prodigy at that point.
Exactly.
You trained them.
Well, and that's the thing too is not every chance, but I try to, if I know people, or give them some guidance of where to go look for work, because when you're graduating from school or getting close to graduating, where do I go? Where do I make
Everyone's
contacts?
lost.
And it's a big scary world. And the thing is sometimes you have to break the shell. You have to put yourself out there and take some risks. Sometimes they pay off, sometimes they don't. But if you don't take a chance,
You'll never know.
you're going to be in your shell going, I want to do this. And sometimes, yes, you have to leave town. Like when I was talking about my film work, I was very lucky. It came to Shreveport.
But it's gone now,
Yeah,
so
it's
for a
gone.
lot of students, They don't need to be scared of traveling.
Well, it's really the when you distill down to the film industry, it is kind of like the grapes of wrath, where you have migrant workforce going where the work is. You're not going to have it. A lot of inertia, momentum, whatnot is in Georgia.
I've heard that lately.
Yeah, it will leave them eventually too.
And
it's just
go
reality.
somewhere else. Is it like a trend, like the trending filming state?
It is. They do have a large incentive package right now. They don't have a cap on it, so they're doing rather well. But the thing is before it got big there, they had been doing commercials for forever. And so they already had a lot of infrastructure in place before the film industry came. Now they've expanded it. When it started in Louisiana, there was zero. And it slowly was building up. And then when we got the nickname Hollywood South, it had expanded, but now things have contracted. You know, it used to be where I was at Mansfield Studios, you could be filming, and actually this was going on. They were filming, yes, disaster movie. Not one I'm proud about, but hey, I didn't work directly on it, but I got a special thanks in the credits. But they were set up on stage, and then about 200 yards away in the building, if they needed to get a replacement light or a cable or gaff tape, there was a consumables company right there, and they could just walk over and say, hey, can I get this? Oh, sure, here's some, you know, here's that. And they can go back and keep filming instead of having to have something shipped in from the dark side of the moon or go across town and pick something up.
Well, let me not get too far off subject here,
Sure.
Although I love learning about the film industry.
Okay.
Let's, after we get back from the break, we're going to learn more about BIPSI's theater program, because we already learned a lot about Louisiana film. So we'll see you back in just a few.
Take 4.
was awesome, dude.
Shot 40, take 1,297.
What?
Guys, help me!
Good, you're good.
Bossier Parish Community College, the fastest growing community college in the nation. Wonder why?
The Division of Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics at Bossier Parish Community College provide cutting-edge technology to students, along with national certifications that allow them to be competitive in today's job market.
The main reason I decided to come to Bossier Parish Community College was when I looked at the networking program, it was the best in the area.
Bossier Parish Community College. Check us out. You'll understand why. Bossier Parish Community College, the fastest growing community college in the nation. Wonder why?
The arts are crucial to Bossier Parish Community College. We provide opportunities to our students in film, in television, in acting, in music. They get that training here at BIPSI with direct, hands-on approach. They can then take that training back out into the community and get a job.
Here at Bossier Parish Community College, there are so many opportunities and classes that are offered to you. It's like the whole world of theater is right here at BIPSI.
Check us out. You'll understand why.
This is BIPSI, brought to you by the Division of Communication and Performing Arts.
Welcome back to This is BIPSI. I'm your host, Sarah Patterson, and today I have here with me Paul Belcher, and he's talking to us about the theater program here at BIPSI. So what are some of the theater productions that you've worked on so far here in your 3 years?
Okay, well, usually I'm in the box office helping with that, and recently I've been working in the front of house, kind of helping people get their tickets, get seated and whatnot. But we just finished a run last month of The Games Afoot. And it's kind of a comedy, kind of like the movie Clue that came out way back when.
I remember that movie, actually.
It was a good show, and it was a good movie, too. Last fall, we did Seussical, which was very popular, had a lot of people show up, and great attendance for that. We kind of run the gamut. We do like a musical traditionally in the fall, and usually a straight play or a comedy in the spring. What we're gearing up for right now, which will open on the Friday, I think the 21st. I don't have my calendar in front of me. It's an adaptation of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. It's Goldilocks and the Three A-Bears, and it is our children's show. And actually, one thing we will be doing is we'll be busing in every first grader in Bossier Parish to see this show.
Really?
So, yes.
How do y'all go about doing that right there?
We coordinate with the Bossier Parish School Board, and they bring several representatives over. And of course, this time of year, as all college students know, spring fever. It's hard to get things accomplished. So a great distraction for the teachers and the students is like, here, let's go on a field trip. Let's see a play. And it's short. It's only about an hour long, because if you bring a 6-year-old in, you're not going to keep them entertained for 2 hours. So it's pretty quick, but it's not just for 6-year-olds. There's jokes for the adults, because you have to entertain the parents, or they're going to be miserable.
Those little subliminal messages.
Exactly. There's some jokes in there that they can get to, and they appreciate it. But it's a fun little deal, and we'll do 6 performances that are open to the public, $5 a ticket. And we'll do 7 performances where we're having the first graders. And so, all told, you do the math. That's 13 performances right there. So.
Do y'all record these performances for like later viewing? We do.
For our archival purposes, we do film them. With the children's show, it's an original work. Obviously, it's based upon the original Goldilocks, but it's an adaptation of it. But we have the rights to that. Now, some of the other shows, like when I mentioned Seussical and Peter Pan and whatnot, that we film, we can do that for archival purposes, but we can't show that. The rights contract that we get when we make an arrangement, for example, like the Samuel French Company or Dramatist, we pay to do the productions at our theater. If we were to, say, broadcast this on our local channel, we would have to open up a whole nother can of worms and get it approved and pay a lot more money. Because
charge way more for those tickets.
Exactly. Like for some productions, for example, we did Parallel Lives last summer. Mo Gaffney and Kathy and Jiminy wrote that back in, I think, the late 80s, early 90s. It was their off-Broadway show. And, for example, I'll quote that money. It was like, if we wanted to add a performance, it was $80.
Wow.
Which is not bad. And what was fun.
But just putting it into perspective.
Right. Yeah, it costs money. When we did Peter Pan, that one is...
Is that what all the ticket sales go to? Is that to pay for that?
It helps reimburse it, but it's not quite the same. Like the cost for Peter Pan, I don't have the numbers in front of me, and it was a long time ago. But not only did we have to pay a large amount for the rights to do the production, they had a rider in it where we had to contact one of 2 flying companies to make sure when Peter Pan flies, it is done safely and we're not bouncing the actor or actress off the scenery and injuring them. So we had to also sign a contract with Flying by Foy, who was based in Las Vegas, to send their equipment and a rep to set everything up and then send everything back when we were done.
So how do you get your budget for the play, and like how much I know they could vary, but like what do they cost to produce?
Well, with the children's show, we actually have I believe there's like 8 different productions they have that we cycle through. So most cases, they just take the flats, which are the wall pieces of the set, we dust them off, touch up any paint, and go. So the cost for that show is minimal. I mean, there may be some costume things we have to get a different size because the actor or the actress, you know, it's a new cast.
And the
every time
actors
you
are
do
all students, right? So they're not.
Most cases they're
getting
students.
paid.
No one gets paid.
Right.
This is educational theater.
Okay.
No one gets paid for acting.
I was curious for budget reasons, of course.
No, well, it's one of those things. Theater, you have to have a certain amount of love for it because the pay is not always great. But most cases, the acting around here, it is, you know, free. But it's good. We do. It doesn't mean that it's bad performances, and that's the same thing with community theater. In most cases, it's free. We do have an equity theater here in town that does pay. The River City Rep, and they do shows. They kind of bounce from location to location because they don't have a home theater, because that's obviously more expensive because you got to pay heating and cooling year round whether you're doing shows or not. But they bring in actors and actresses across the country to do their shows. Being an equity theater, they have to pay that.
So here at the school, what would you say was the most successful production that we've done in the time that you've been here?
Peter Pan.
Peter Pan?
Well, Peter Pan was, as far as audience, a lot of people were excited just because they know the name.
Right.
It's something that you can ask anybody, they know what it is. Now, critical acclaim, that would be Turn of the Screw. That was a summer show that we did 2 summers ago. And in college theater, there is a competition called the Kennedy Center American College Theater Festival, which is a mouthful of words. We shortened it KCACTF. And yes,
that's
you
still
learn,
a mouthful.
you learn how to say that very quickly. And there's also scholarships opportunities for students to compete for. They're called the Irene Ryans that are tied to that. Irene Ryan played Granny on the Beverly Hillbillies, and she started this scholarship program way back when. And so if you talk to a theater student, you know, and they're an actor or an actress, ask them, what do you feel about the Irene Ryans? Oh, they're great, they're stressful, blah, blah, blah. But it's a chance for them to get more money. They also have MTI scholarships, which are for singing, music theater, international, you know, that's what that's for. And as well as writing and stage management and whatnot. But going back to Turn of the Screw, we did that production. We applied to KCACTF. We had a respondent come to critique our show, and they enjoyed it. We also had a lot of great word of mouth. People were coming to see the show because they saw it was a great performance by our 2 actors, Jesse Cordes and Madeline Hires. It was an hour and 45-minute show and 2 people on stage the entire time. So Madeline played pretty much one character throughout, and Jesse played everybody else. So he had to jump in a 2-minute scene between a 5-6-year-old boy to a 45-year-old man to the.
That's a lot of changing really fast.
He's bouncing around, and there's no quick jump to this camera, jump to that camera, jump to this camera. No, he's out there. He's exposed for everything. So he has to change his vocal inflections. He has to change his mannerisms.
With that being said, would you say that being like the talent is the hardest job, or what is the most difficult job in the?
There's lots of different ways. And depending on the show, it can be very easy on the talent when they go out there because the set's built, the props are here, the set decoration's here. They just have to, in some cases, remember their lines, add a little bit of thought to it, and
how do you pick them?
Pick the plays?
The actors and actresses.
Usually you'll have a case of auditions. I mean, to be honest, when you do a show, for example, like something here, you kind of have to think, okay, what does my talent pool look like? Obviously, every year you have students come out of the blue.
Right.
You have some who don't come back a semester, either financial reasons or whatnot. You don't have to be a student to get into the show, so they can still audition and be cast and whatnot. And we have community actors all the time, so it's not that you have to be a student, but you have to kind of look at what your resources are, like with everything. And you can go, okay, I can do this show, or no, I can't. Like if you don't have a lot of people who can sing, you're not going to do Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. You know, you can probably have to do something a little bit smaller. So you have to kind of look at that. And while there's not necessarily pre-casting, you just have to kind of judge what you can and can't do. But when you do have an auditions, Dr. Crawford, he's the dean of the division, and he directs most of the productions. He'll have the students and the actors go through several different exercises to see what they're capable of, to see if they can speak with different accents and different instruction.
My last question for you before we run out of time is,
sure,
if a student here at BIPSI wants to get involved in our theater program, how do they take that next step?
The simplest way is to like our Facebook page, because we post when we have auditions for upcoming productions on there, as well as listing upcoming shows. That way the information comes to them. They don't necessarily have to come over to the theater or look into the bulletin boards that have all this information and try to, they can go, oh, that's when auditions are. Like for example, I believe it's like the first week of May we have our auditions for the summer show. So we're going to be doing The Haunting of Hill House. So that'll be the next opportunity to audition for.
Well, y'all heard him. Y'all make sure to come out, like the theater Facebook page so you guys can get informed on that, and come out and join one of our plays if you want. And I just wanted to thank you for coming out and letting me interview you today, Mr. Paul. That's all I have for you today, guys. Thanks for tuning into This is BIPSI. I'm your host, Sarah Patterson. Until next time.